For those of you that have been following me for a long time, you guys know that God of War, the new game coming out on April 20th by Sony and Sony Santa Monica, is my number 2 most anticipated game. Hell, some days it's number 1, especially after that gameplay leak. But I'm a big story guy, and I never finished the God of War trilogy. I had played God of War 1 and God of War 2 on the PlayStation 2, but as you guys know, I didn't really get a PlayStation 3. Well, fortunately, God of War 3 has been remastered on the PS4, and I finally finished it to get myself hyped and ready for the new God of War on April 20th. And this video is going to be about what I enjoyed, what I really liked, and what I didn't about God of War 3. So strap it down, and we're going to talk about it right now. What is going on, guys? Randall Thor 19, the man with the million, back again with another video. And I'm doing this video because a ton of you requested it. You wanted to see my take on God of War. So here we go. God of War 3. The first thing that kind of stood out to me when I started the game up was how it looks. It is a PS3 game from literally 2010, so it's an 8-year-old game, but it still holds up pretty damn well. The remaster was very good. It looks well. The character model of Kratos himself looked fantastic, and most importantly, it runs at a solid 60 frames, and that really helps with the combat, which is probably the next biggest thing I enjoyed about this game is the combat. I've always been a fan of combo-based gameplay in games such as God of War, and I loved using the Blades of Exile in this game to just rip through my opponents. You know, they throw a whole bunch of enemies at you, and it's just a lot of fun figuring out new combos and different ways to dispatch your enemies. And honestly, I thought I would use the Blades of Exile throughout the entire game, but I actually ended up liking 3 of the 4 weapons you get. I actually really enjoyed using the Nemean Cestus, those big like fists that you get from beating Hercules to death. I really enjoyed using those to pound people into submission and pop them up in the air and use their special ability. But then I also really like the Nemesis Whip that you get from Hephaestus and uses the electricity. Those 3 weapons, the Blade of Exile, the Cestus, and the Whip, I greatly enjoyed using, figuring out the different combos you can use and fast switching between them both to really pull out some epic combos. So the gameplay combined with the frame rate it's running at and how good it looks, it put me in a great mood when I was playing the entire game. It runs well and it looks really good. The other thing that was really enjoyable was the scale of the game. The sense of scale in this game is ridiculous, and I'm sure it'd probably be even more impressive if I played this back on the PS3 in 2010, but you guys know I didn't have a PlayStation until PlayStation 4. But my god, some of the sequences in here are jaw-dropping even now. The intro to the game, when you're climbing up Gaia, who's, you know, leading the attack of the Titans on Mount Olympus as all the gods come down to fight you, was amazing. One of the better intros to a kind of game like this in forever. Like, I was hooked, line and sinker. I was like, this is ridiculous. Poseidon comes down to attack you. He turns into that like little horse water, and things happen to Gaia, and you flip around. You're hanging off the side of her, you know, hanging upside down, fighting enemies that spawn on her, and then finally you get to kill Poseidon, and it's brutal. That's another thing that was pretty great about this game, was the different boss fights that you encounter and you take out in such a brutal, bloody manner. First you start off with Poseidon, and yes, since this game is 8 years old, I'm probably going to end up spoiling a few things here and there because I do want to talk about the ending and what that potentially means for God of War. So if you're kind of, hey, don't get spoilers, this is your warning right now. But man, you go after Poseidon, and the way you kill him, it was just satisfying. But it doesn't stop there, because you literally go through the entire pantheon of the Greek gods. You destroy Hermes by just basically cutting off his legs like a slab of beef. You just rip off Helios's head and use his head as a freaking flashlight to go through dark areas. You destroy Hades. I mean, you eventually get to the point where you beat Zeus, obviously, but all the different gods you come to in this game, not only do you overcome, but you just destroy them. And in fact, probably the most visceral one was the way you destroyed your brother, Hercules. You end up in this this fight. It was pretty graphic. You get his armor off of him, and eventually you're just on top of him, on top of a boulder or whatever, and he can't move, and you just pound his face into submission. Love it. Love the brutality and the bloody combat in this game. Of course, the QTEs, one has to mention the QTEs when talking about God of War, because it is one of the games that kind of popularized the idea of QuickTime events in games. And honestly, throughout the entire game, I never got tired of any of the QTEs. I love doing them because honestly, I liked seeing all the brutal ways you can dispatch your enemies. I mean, every one of the kind of individual enemies you do fight have some sort of unique way of dispatching them by pressing circle and doing a whole bunch of like QTEs. I mean, you don't have to do them. You can kill them a normal way, but normally you get like health back, you get magic back, and you get some of the you even get some experience. So I always opted for the choice of the QTEs because I like seeing that, and it never really got old. Now, so that's everything I liked about the game. How it performed, how it looked, the epic scale of this game. It's ridiculous. The combat, the bloody boss fights, the QTEs, the environment. I really enjoy Greek mythology, so seeing a lot of places from Greek mythology that I've read about in there, like Mount Olympus and the Path of Eos, the Tombs of Ares, and all those different places was really cool to see. However, there is a few things that kind of dragged it down a tad bit. Some of the gameplay in this is very dated. Of course it is. It's 8 years old. Especially when you're climbing up walls or climbing over things. It feels very last gen. So I didn't really particularly care for any of that. When you needed to jump up and grab onto an enemy and then grab onto the next and grab onto the next enemy to go over to a certain spot, I didn't really care for that either. It just felt the cheap way of just kind of getting to where you needed to go. And of course, Kratos has to kind of rip off the arms of people. It didn't really make much sense, but it is what it is, right? And honestly, the two biggest drawbacks to me in the game were the ending, the resolution to Kratos' quest for vengeance, and Kratos himself. So in this game, Kratos is on a quest for vengeance. He wants to kill Zeus because of what happened to Kratos himself. Everybody knows the story. Kratos is a tragic figure. He essentially killed his wife and child, and that started him on this road of, being vengeful towards the gods and all that stuff. And it leads to this point here where Kratos is finally coming down to take out Zeus, and the way he does it is with hope. Like, the whole game you're told the only way to kill a god is within this chest, Pandora's box, which you opened up previously in the first game. So when you finally get Pandora, and that's another low point of the game, is everything to do with Pandora. Not saying that, the female character is bad or whatever, but like the fact that throughout the entire game Kratos is one way, but then with Pandora he's a completely different way. And I understand like he's supposed to kind of think of Pandora as his daughter and of what happened and stuff like that, but it didn't really fit right. So she eventually becomes one with the Pandora's box, and Kratos opens it and it's empty. But you eventually do kill Zeus because you have hope. So the Pandora's box held all the world's evils in it, right? And it also held hope, which is what Athena put into it, and which is why she's been helping you this entire time to take down Zeus, so you would give her the hope back. But that's why, and that's how Kratos could kill Zeus, because he had hope. It doesn't really make a whole hell of a lot of sense when you think about it. And the sequence where you're in Kratos' mind and it's all black and you're just running from one area to the other, it was a pretty bad sequence, especially coming off a pretty good fight with Zeus. I felt it just dragged it down, and I'm like, why am I doing this? So the story didn't really live up to the billing, at least how you could kill Zeus. And honestly, the biggest thing I didn't like about this game, and some of you will find this to be heresy, was Kratos himself. Because he's not a likable character at all. I mean, most of the time when I was playing it, I wanted him to lose. He is such a one-track minded person. that when people are telling him other things, like, you know not what you do and that stuff, he doesn't matter because I need to kill Zeus. He will get his vengeance. Honestly, Kratos was so one note in this game that I didn't enjoy anything he said throughout the entire game. The only moment where he showed any sort of character nuance was when Pandora was about to go throw herself into the flame, and he went to reach out for her and then pulled back. Honestly, Kratos, at least in God of War 3, because he wasn't like this in God of War 1 and God of War 2, was a terrible character. He's a terrible character. And this kind of leads into God of War, the new one. I am so happy that they are going in the direction they are, because Kratos can be a nuanced, tragic figure. That's what he is. But unfortunately, in God of War 3, he was just a gigantic asshole with no redeeming qualities whatsoever. He literally murdered the entire Greek pantheon, all the gods, all the titans, because of a mistake that he did when he accidentally killed, his family. And he went on this murdering rampage despite what it would mean for humanity in itself. And he just came off as this prick who only cares about himself. I know maybe some people will enjoy that aspect of it, but to me, I was just like, man, I'm over Kratos. I don't know how many times in the game he said, I will get you, Zeus. Right? At one time, great. 2 times, sure. But, he does it 20 times. It became so rote at that point. But this is why I'm looking forward to the new God of War. Because he seems to be much more nuanced. His rage seems to be lessened. He has somebody he's looking out after. He's in a different realm. That's the other thing. The ending of this game was pretty bad. I mean, yeah, you essentially sacrifice yourself so hope can go out to humanity, and you piss off Athena, right? And you end up with this big, huge gash in your chest. Cuts to credits, comes back. There's no body anymore. There's a streak of blood that leads to the cliff, and the game just ends. And it's really, that's the ending? That is the ending? So now we gotta wonder, not only how did Kratos survive, where Kratos went off to, and then the questions that are going to hopefully be answered in this new one, how did Kratos end up in a Norse realm? How does he have a kid? Why is he a little bit more wiser? All the different things that need to be answered in this one, but I'm so happy they went this way, because it means better things for the character of Kratos, because by the end of 3, he's just a one-note trick pony that I didn't want to hear anything. I didn't want to hear any more from, quite frankly. And that was kind of my biggest issue, was the story and the portrayal of Kratos in this game. Everything else is great. Gameplay, production values, the scale, the boss fights, the QTEs. I love the camera. I don't mind that I didn't have full control of the camera, because it adds to the epic scale that the game offers. And some of the puzzles and some of the platforming were pretty good. So that's why overall I'll probably give the game an 8.5. If the story was better, or at least the twist of how you kill a god was better than just hope, and if Kratos was more nuanced and went through I don't know what I'm going to try to say here, but trials and tribulations through the game, instead of just ransacking all the entire Greek gods without having to struggle one bit, then I'd rate it a bit higher. But that's okay, because it is 8 years old. Obviously some games don't age well with time. I think the gameplay stuff in this one has aged pretty well. It's just the story and the character really haven't. But that's why we have a new game. And a chance for something else to happen. A chance for a better Kratos to emerge. A more nuanced Kratos. So I'm super excited. Still super excited. Even more excited now for the new God of War after playing God of War 3 Remastered than I was previously, because there's so many questions I need answered, and I know a lot of you are probably thinking the same. How is he there? How did he survive? How does he have a kid? Who did he meet that made him fall in love again? All that stuff. What has he been doing since then? And then whatever journey they're going on in the new one. I am dying to play the new God of War, and I hope you are too. But anyways, that is the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review, or at least look back on God of War. If you did, make sure you hit that like button. Consider subscribing to my channel for new content as I have it, drop every single day most of the time. Share this out on Twitter so we can get a discussion going on about God of War 3 in the comments section. Let me know what you think about the game in the comments below. Did you really enjoy God of War 3 when you played it? Have you not played it? Are you looking forward to the new God of War? Make sure you leave a comment below. I'll check it out. Have a nice discussion about God of War 3 and if you really enjoyed it or why you didn't. And thank you guys so much for checking out the review. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll see everybody in the next video. Later, guys.